I haven't told you the story. The
What?
story that I told in class that day, and that was like the caveat, like the thing that happened that made the catalyst. That was the catalyst.
To push you into stand-up comedy. I assumed it had something to do with the story that you just told me about your mom and
It's
your
well,
related.
okay. So the story is, don't tighten up on me, bro. Everything's fine. I'm a cool person. Don't tighten up. I don't want you to be like, it's mom
What?
and dad died.
What's
But
that?
no, no, I don't want you to tighten up on me. But
No, I'm
everything's
listening.
funny. Like I take negative situations and make them funny. So the story is I was wearing a Susan G. Komen t-shirt. It says real men wear pink. It's a
Breast
breast cancer
cancer
awareness shirt.
awareness.
Yeah. And so I was here in LA at a food for less or whatever. And a lady came up to me and was like, I love your t-shirt. Who do you wear it for? And I told her I wear it for my mom. And she said, that's a beautiful narrative. And I could tell she was going through treatment. She had a scarf on, the telltale signs. And she said, well, I can tell by the fire in your eyes that your mother is a strong and beautiful woman and she'll pull through whatever situation. And she asked, do you mind if I ask you what stage is she in? And I said, the stage is rigor mortis. And she kind of looked at me, was like, that's not funny. And I was like, well, mom wasn't much of a fighter. She gave up kind of quickly. And I walked away.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Your mom is a lot is alive.
No, she's not.
Oh, oh man. Oh
Yeah,
man.
no, she's not. But, I told that story in acting class, and the teacher laughed because he was like, I did not see that ending coming, like rigor mortis. And, he was like, here's the deal, go do stand-up comedy before next class, which it was Thursday when he said it. He said, don't come to class Monday if you didn't do stand-up comedy, and I'll refund you your money. I've never refunded a student their money, but I'll specifically give you your money back. But the deal is I don't want to ever see you again. And like the next 2 days, I didn't know anything about open mics or nothing. So I'm Googling Google everything. I YouTubed how to do stand-up comedy. The craziest thing about the coach, his name was Dustin Felder. He was, pretty big time. He was a child actor, and then he became a coach, and he was doing the Marlon show, the Marlon Wayne. He was coaching them. He did Will Smith and Jaden in the Karate Kid, I think, or yeah, one of those movies. He
Just
was their
coach the
coach.
actors,
Yeah,
coaching the
yeah.
actors in those films.
So he told me go do it, and he told me the reason why is because that's my in. Because remember, it was an acting class I had never done. So he was like, stand up comedy is your in into the industry. And I remember when after I was doing comedy for about a year or whatever, um, I got noticed by a company. I don't want to, say any company names or anything because I don't know if you can say stuff, but uh, they wanted to sit down and have a meeting with me. And I remember I wanted to tell him, like, hey, look what happened. I got my in, and he died.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
That blew, I was like, how did the person who told me to go do this, like, I went to his memorial service and everything. It was crazy because he was young. He was like 39, like not even 40, just. And I was like, oh my God. And it was sad. And I remember his I forgot what it's called, the teacher under the head teacher, but I was talking to him and I was like, man, it's crazy. It seems like he lived long enough to kind of encourage a bunch of students to do this. And because everyone has a date already, so he just, some people use your time wisely on earth. What can you give? And he gave me like a new shot at life, because before I was doing comedy, I was like a chef, like just in restaurants, working in restaurants, things like that. And that's how I ended up in LA, was because the company I was working for moved me out here to open up new restaurants or whatever. And so I would go to the corporate kitchen in Scottsdale, Arizona, and I would learn this concept and then go and have to teach it to another restaurant and train people. And so I ended up in LA, and I fell in love with LA. I was like, coming from Houston, especially from rainy Hurricane Houston, coming to LA, oh my God. Oh my God. And then I was living in Santa Monica because I was living in the, companies like apartments and things like that. I didn't know anything outside of Venice, Santa Monica, the Pacific Palisades, and Malibu when I first moved here. I
That's still
didn't know.
normal. That's still normal for all people who live in LA, or many people don't know anything about other than the neighborhood they live in. No matter what neighborhood you live in, too.
Yeah,
You only know where your area.
legit. So, and I think it was like a thing where I was making a shit ton of money, of course, and you still feel money isn't everything. I'll start by saying that it's not. We think it is, but it's really not, because I was making a lot of money, but I was just empty. Like I didn't feel like fulfilled. That sounds so cliche, yada yada yada.
Well, how do you think
But
things become cliches?
well, yeah,
There you
because
go. I follow.
so that's how I ended up. It was one of those things like, how you're on social media and it was a seminar for an acting class. And I was like, I'm going to go to it on Saturday. And I went to the seminar and was like, I'll do this. And I went to my job and was like, I don't want to be a supervisor anymore. I don't want to be this position anymore. I want to downgrade to just a regular cook and just work these set hours, because as when you're a certain position, you're working 12-hour shifts. Like that's your life pretty much. And so I was like, nah, I just want to work like 6 hours. And they were like, so what else are you gonna do? I was like, I'm gonna be an actor. And they laughed. They laughed in my face. He didn't even put in my request because he said I can't be serious because it's too expensive in LA. I didn't know how expensive it was because, like I said, I wasn't paying any rent. They was paying it for me. So I didn't know anything about LA. And that's when I had to move to Crenshaw. And that's when I learned what LA really was. I was like, this is not Santa Monica no more.
you're not in Kansas anymore. I
No.
want to. So that acting seminar that you went to was with Dustin Felder. That one.
Yeah.
And what year was this? This was 6 years ago or something. You said.
This had to be 17 because I
Yeah.
didn't move here
Yeah.
until
About
16.
so yeah, it's whatever 6 7 years ago. And he passed. I got it right here. He passed in 2019. It looks like. So you hadn't really had you been in touch with him after your class up until the time he passed at all?
So when I didn't go to his class until it had to be 2018 then. It had to be because I was doing the chef thing for a while. And yeah, so it had to be 2018. And I was taking the actual, because when you're doing the intro class, you don't go straight to the head guy. You go to his understudy. That's what it's called, his
Sure.
understudy. And not to make it sound like it's less, because the guy was still really great with great credits or whatever. But his name's Kears, by the way. And so I was taking classes with him, and Dustin would drop in on the classes just to kind of see, how's it going. And he would drop in on the classes every day. I mean, every session. And also to monitor, I guess, his understudy. And that's when I did it wasn't a joke, it was a story. But, he took it as a joke, and he told me to, go do comedy. So I think I stayed in class probably another 5 or 6 sessions, and I had the comedy bug. So I abandoned that, and I just started doing comedy. Like, oh my God, I would go start at 5 o'clock and I wouldn't stop until like 11 o'clock every night. Like, it was ridiculous, the addiction I had or have to stand up comedy. But back then, when you're first starting, oh my God, it's a drug.
I believe it. Did Dustin ever get a chance to come out to any of your shows or
No,
performances or anything like that?
no. I
Did he know
emailed
he knew?
him.
Oh, that's what I was gonna ask. What was your correspondence like?
Yeah, I emailed him a set one time or whatever. And, he was like, "Oh, good job, good job." And he was like, stay with. This was after I had left, his school or whatever. But he was just always encouraging, like, stick with it, like that you're in. And it's crazy that I literally thought he lived long enough to drop that knowledge on me, and you know, but that's how life works. Sometimes you have
Yeah,
guardian
no,
angels.
yeah, no, for sure. That's super cool that you got a chance to know him and connect with him. And it's funny because my podcast is called People Who Love. I'm talking about asking you who you inspires you and this and that. And I'm like having the conversation. I'm like, oh, maybe I could clip something with his mom or his sister or something like that, or maybe one of these hip hop artists he's worked with. And then I'm like thinking to myself, this guy's on his website. Dustin Felder's on your website as someone who's inspired you, and that's something like you're not going to like forget like for the rest of your career and life, like that. This, even
No,
if it finds its way off your website, you're gonna know like the first time you got into comedy.
his name will never leave my
Brain.
story. It will
Yeah.
never leave my story.